Welcome everyone. Started this series of dev calls just a few weeks ago, but it already seems like it's a big hit. And for us, we're excited to actually really be more transparent and communicate with the global Hummingbot community every week, especially on the developer side, and really have you guys help us build a better code base that serves everyone in the community. Couple project management things before Payday starts. We created a new GitHub repository called PM, which is in the Hummingbot Foundation, github.com/hummingbot/PM. It's a public repository that's modeled after the one that the Ethereum Foundation uses for their dev calls. So the idea is that before every weekly call, Carlito or Fede would post the agenda with the high level topics that we want to discuss. If you want to add topics to that agenda, suggest your topics in the community call chat channel during the week. And then we'll try to add your topics to the chat the agenda as well. And then after the meeting, Carlito will post the audio recording of the call to the GitHub repo as well, so that anyone who can't make the time can also follow along. In the future, we may add notes. Ethereum Foundation has a note taker. Right now, we're just starting with the agenda and the recording to try to make it more concrete and more transparent. In addition, I think Fede, you did a poll in the last meeting. The topic for this time around is bot coordination, basically using Hummingbot and basically controlling multiple versions of Hummingbot. These are definitely long-term improvements that we want to make to the Hummingbot code base. And the goal is really to just have an open discussion among the community in terms of what the architecture should look like, and really basically try to identify members of the community who wants to work and earn HBOT tokens for working on these things. Format of the call, we'll always try to have this call, last no more than hopefully like 45 minutes or so. But the format of the call should be a large topic of discussion and then some type of AMA in the second half so that we can answer questions from the developer community. Of course, if you have any questions along the way, you can post them in the community call chat channel on Discord, and we'll try to answer them in the AMA section.
First of all, we would like to review the topics of the last meeting. Mainly, we review the governance process on the result of and we have the poll. The PRDs that we are trying to review are the bot coordination and the indicators. What I write about this is like it's a system that interacts with multiple Hummingbot instances and is able to start, stop, and change configurations of the bot. That's like the main goal that we are trying to accomplish with this. Which will be the person that will be interested in this solution? Community members that are running multiple bots to pull liquidity in different markets, or hedge funds that are using Hummingbot and they have to manage, 100 or 200 bots. Which are the problems? When you have to run multiple bots, you have to create the config files. You have two options using YAMLs and like different YAMLs, using a UI that creates the YAMLs automated for you. But these are like all external resources right now. Then you have to move these config files to the instance where the bots, where you are hosting the bots. And then you have to start the bot and select the strategy. Or if you know how to auto start the bot, you can auto start it with Docker. So also another thing that you want to do is check the performance of the bot. And if you have some issues or you found in the market some special conditions, probably you want to stop the bot too and adjust the strategy to run it again. So right now, all these strategies are manual. This is when running multiple bots on one pair, there are multiple connectors, right? Yeah, that's true, Rishos. And also, or another market making strategy that is running BTC USDT in the same instance, you will be receiving to that IP address. You were asking for that information from the same IP address, the 2 times the same information. So also it's a good point. I will add it to the PRD that too, because it's important. TDC says these are very good starting points. Okay, well that part was a little bit easy because I was running multiple bots before, so I had those issues too. Why we are trying to do this is I think that managing multiple bots is a feature that anyone that wants to be a market maker needs. because you want to have control in all your bots. Also, I think that the users has to spend their times analyzing the markets and the performance of the bots instead of dealing with multiple instances and configurations. And also, it will let you take quick actions on the bots if a special market condition appears. You say, hey, the market is going to crash and I want to stop all the bots right now and cancel all the orders. You don't have like a safe way to do it right now. How we can say that this will be success if we have an interface that lets you manage multiple bots, start, stop, and change the configuration of the different bots. Now we are going to the part of functional requirements. We will have like a unified interface to run multiple docs with Docker. We'll have each bot in different Docker instances, and we will need that the user can start, stop, change configuration, and check the performance. What else do you think that this bot orchestration has to incorporate?
Some type of like kill switch feature.
Okay.
Some type of like event-based triggers to start.
Event-based triggers. Okay. Visuals said aggregated performance. Visuals, this is like when you have the 10 bots running, you will to understand which is the P&L of the whole bots.
That makes sense because ideally you want it to bot by writing the same database, so you don't have to like have separate databases for various bots.
TTC says be able to do the same for Hummingbot running from source. Maybe we can create a pool. How many people is using source and how many people is using Docker? I will create it and we can understand that, because if you are running in production multiple bots, I think that using Docker will be better than using than running it from source. And also you can create, maybe you can use a service like, I don't know, Kubernetes or something like that to orchestrate them too, and this orchestration layer to manage them. But Soothsayer says, I think we will also need to perhaps redefine which configs are global and which configs are local. For instance, balance limit should it be per exchange globally, per bot? I think every bot has to have its own configuration. If you are using different API keys, probably if you are using sub accounts, you will have different API keys and all those things. But this is a point to discuss. Which configs are global and which are local? Local, you say global. Okay, you added, Mike. Thank you. Is local is for each bot. Okay, perfect. Well, is the idea focused on orchestrating bots running the same strategy? No, it's for every strategy that you want to run.
I think the ability to change configurations from the master interface that actually might cover the local versus global config issue. Because let's say you have like some command that says change all the limits to something. But yeah, actually maybe not, because I guess for bounce limit, I see that. Well, for bounce limit, because you're pulling from the same account, it would be actually a global thing. So I think if you want to do kind of global versus local, you could kind of set up sub accounts or use different wallets for different bots, and that way you can have bot based balance limits. Or if you want global based limits, I think the best solution is to use like a single account for all the bots and then set the same balance limit for those. I think there's like the interface part of this versus like the functional like technical. I think the approach that I was suggesting initially is focus on the technical part, configure it to be able to run with a very like basic interface, and then over time, like someone might be able to develop multiple interfaces depending on how they want to customize the behavior of the overall system.
Wujak says functional requirements, bot status reporting, bot operation call to action, start and stop buttons. Yeah, that's already. Changing specific bot parameters. Yeah, that's like changing the configs. I agree too. Rules related to the balance. If stop bots, if balance is lower than X value, spin up more bots if balance. Okay, that will be the same that Mike says. That is event-based triggers to stop and start the bot. So right now we have all the topics covered. I think that the bot status reporting reporting is like another HIP that we can create a dashboard that probably could be the same interface that the orchestration interface, but it will be like another development. Can I ask how to apply for a Hummingbot grant? Says Trader Shack. Maybe we can answer this question when Mike explains the governance part that is after this. Match, hedge, and market making strategies to generate P&L, combined P&L reports. Well, that's a very interesting idea, Kit. We were working in the past, but I think that also is more related to a reporting tool. Nice feature to able to change both parameters from outside. Yeah, that's the main goal that we are trying to accomplish, to change the parameters of the bot from the outside. Question: why the Docker can run memory easily with just sense and then crash? Binance Perpetuals connector. Probably you have some issues with the memory. Provide more information then, and we can review that with the QA team and say. TTC says the bots must have config separated. Okay.
Let's try to move on. I copied some of the more like the larger comments to the PRD. So we'll try to organize this a bit later. But we also want to talk about some of the proposed solutions that members of the community have already created for this, and to try to get some discussion on which direction should we head toward, which ones should we actually kind of start investing into, and how do we kind of like combine them or kind of like iterate on them. So let's move on to the how part.
I asked different community members of which are the solutions that they have already implemented, and I post the answers of them here in this how section. So the three main solutions that we have right now that interacts with the bot from the outside, the Holy Rusher WebSocket implementation that currently is receiving the signals from TradingView. This solution currently needs a server that runs with Node, I think, and redirects the information to the different bots. The next solution is one created by Kial Panagi. He creates like a broker-based communication using MQTT. That is a protocol commonly used in IoT. He likes a lot these distributed systems. Currently, there is an image in the part of the Kial Panagi that lets you start, stop the bot. I don't know if there is another page that lets you change the config or not, but currently it he has those implementations. He's compatible with RPC communication. How it works is like an pub sub. You can publish a message in this MQTT, and the bots will be subscribed to that topic, so they will receive the information that Panay sends through this UI. So that's the second solution. Third solution is the Petio RPC layer. Petio is an engineer from CoinAlpha. Right now, the solution is terminated. Now you cannot stop, start, and change the config of the bot, but he said that we can create an UI to interact via HTTP with the bot and send commands to it. So these are the three solutions that we have right now: the broker-based communication, the WebSocket implementation, and the RPC layer. Now I would like to hear if anyone in the community has another solution that is currently using.
The goal of this meeting is not to kind of like really make any decisions. It's really about kind of like just like a temperature check from the community in terms of like which direction should we investigate further, think about alternatives, or if you think that kind of like we should be looking to combine some of these solutions. We're just looking to kind of get consulted technical expertise of the overall community. So we'll probably end up having. I think we'll actually end up discussing this in more detail after we kind of like do more investigation work. Start having these calls to actually turn Hummingbot into a kind of more of a community base. So the direction is not dictated by us or by Corn Alpha. Instead, the direction is dictated by everyone in the community. The goal here is really just try to get an initial discussion going on this topic. I'll explain more in the governance part, but I think that to us, like what's worked in the past is like, when I look at the first Epoch, it's when we've had like, good community members that have almost like formed teams either themselves or with other members to work on something. So, so this work has really been done, by individual community members on their own. I think they would all appreciate, people helping them out, whether it's kind of like to help them test it, to kind of give them another second opinion. And so I think the goal of this is kind of like almost to like create some type of like dev grant that is going to reward multiple people for contributing to one initiative and try to make it a truly a community based effort.
Okay, perfect. Mike, do you want to explain the governance part, and maybe we can explain the indicators in the next meeting?
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll give
Okay.
everyone some time to think about bot orchestration process. So the Miro Whiteboard is probably the main like source of truth for how we think the new process work. So if you guys open up the link that I just posted in the community chat, basically outlines different processes for bugs, improvement proposals, which are basically non-bugs, and pull requests. So just to define what these are, bugs are things that either someone identifies and says, "Hey, you guys should fix this in the code." Improvement proposals are basically when someone says, "Hey, you guys, I think you should add this new connector, this new strategy, or some big improvement like the coordination orchestration module in Hummingbot." Both of these processes we envision ending up as a pull request because the first two are issues, or they really start as GitHub issues someone has created, but there's a someone has to actually write code to fix it. So that's that both of the termination points for both the bugs and the improvements process ends up at the starting point for the pull request process. In addition, we kind of envision two public artifacts. One is a bounties board, and the second is a review board. So the idea behind the bounties board is that both bugs and improvements result in a bounty being created. So for bugs, the idea is that the if it's a bug, there's no voting because everyone wants that bug to be fixed. So once the foundation assesses the severity and the level of effort on the bug, it would check a schedule and then add a bounty to the bounties board. After that, any developer can raise their hand and say, I want to work on this bounty and earn it, and then it will be assigned by the foundation to work on it. After that, the developer, once they have the pull request ready, then that starts the pull request process, which I'll discuss in a bit. For non-bugs, which are improvements, we think that the first part is making sure that the community really believes that the improvement is actually worthwhile. So we think a forum thread, a thread on our new Discourse forum is the right starting point, so people can get some discussion going and decide if this is actually worth adding into the code base. After that, it could be a foundation bounty in the case of some large architectural change, like this bot coordination discussion. But a lot of the time, it's someone from the community who wants to add a connector for their own exchange or a new strategy they've developed, or they want to fund a new strategy that they think will benefit them. So in that case, we want to really start the concept of community bounties, where some of the community say, if someone builds X, I'm going to give this amount of tokens to that. So we would set up a community bounty wallet at the foundation. If someone funds a bounty, then that gets added to the bounties board. Alternatively, if it's a foundation bounty, so if it's being paid HBOT tokens or other funds at the foundation, then it would need to go through the HIP, Hummingbot Improvement Proposal voting process on Snapshot. If the community votes it in, then it would get added to the bounties board. One note is that in Epoch 1, set a guidance of us 20,000 HBOT tokens for 1 day of dev work. Unfortunately, we feel like it created kind of an incentive. If you're a new developer, you take a long time, then you actually earn more tokens for doing that span of work. So this time around, we don't want to give any per day guidance in terms of how much HBOT you're earning. We think that it should be looking at the budget separate the Epoch. So we're proposing a dev grant budget of, I think, 15 million tokens. So overall, if it's improvements, I think the improvement should ask for a share of that budget, and then the voting process should be driven by the community to decide if that is, if that improvement is actually valuable enough given the budget for the Epoch. So hopefully, what we kind of envision is that these improvement proposals, I would say, are really designed to get large changes like this bot coordination module or an indicators module that will benefit everyone in the code base. And it might be like more than one person who's working on that Like, it might be a small team of people who are, experienced developers who can knock that out and earn like a substantial bounty for that work. Bugs and proof proposals end up as a pull request. In addition, people can also submit their own pull requests. If it's a bug fix, we don't think it needs to be voted on. The bug fix would go straight to the review board, which is another public GitHub board we're creating. If it's a non-bug, then we do think it should go through a voting process, and that the voting process for here is not to decide whether the pull request will be merged in, but instead it decides if the review team, someone from the review team, should be reviewing it. The review team is something we tried experimented with in the first epoch. This time we want to open up more. So instead of just having a limited number of people, only like one out of the 5 elected members being able to review it, we think that pretty much any qualified reviewer should be able to review these pull requests, and they'll be compensated as well. So the idea is that if there's a bounty attached to the pull request in the case of a bug or a bounty, the reviewer gets a percentage of the bounty for doing the work, and the foundation also gets a percentage as well, because the foundation is the one performing the QA function here for these bounties and bugs. In case of like just a normal contribution, a pull request submitted by the community member, we envision a review budget, like basically a budget of tokens that pays the reviewer tokens for reviewing the pull request. And if it's a connector, which is bigger, or strategy, they might get more than if it's a simpler thing to review. So that's overall process. And also on the board, there's like outlines for what the two boards would look like, both the bounties board and the review board. And so there's kind of like basically the boxes are each column in the basically the Kanban pipeline, and it shows kind of how both issues and pull requests would transition from one state to another. So that's just a quick overview. I know that it's a pretty complicated, a flow chart, but we think that overall it's a better process than what we had in the first epoch, because the goal is to try to make it more transparent what the process is for getting code into the code base, and b, reward community members for doing the work and try to make it more fair for them to do so. I'll stop here. If you have any questions about this, I would say you can ask them, put them on the chat now. You can post them on the governance forum. I'll post a link to the forum as well on the chat. But the overall idea is that we plan to submit a governance proposal for this change, and also the budget for Epoch 2, which is also in the forum thread, in the next few days, so that we can basically get that kind of set in stone at the start of Epoch 1, which is on August 1st. In terms of the budget, so I think originally when we first started the foundation, we envisioned that we would give out 30 million HBOT tokens in Epoch 1, and then 60 million in Epoch 2. Because the token amounts being given out, the foundation side, I think we've kind of realized it's not so much about how much tokens we're giving out, but it's more about trying to make sure that the folks who are earning the tokens are actually doing something which is helping drive value to the community, driving the amount of fees that are earned in terms of revenue by the foundation, which then if there's an excess, it then actually controlled by token holders. I think some of the things we've done in the first epoch that probably didn't add as much value were things like the hackathon, where we gave out like 1 million tokens to people who just did just a small amount of work that didn't actually end up being merged into the code base. Or in the case of the developer airdrop, people were kind of like just earning 10K tokens for not really actually making meaningful contributions to the code. They're just getting airdrops because they submitted a pull request. So I think in the future, that's why we want to kind of try to scale back the number of tokens given out, just keep it at 30 million again for Epoch 2, until we have a good handle on what actually is going to benefit, what kind of grants, what kind of initiatives will actually benefit people. And because a lot of us hold HBOT token, and the more of it is out there, the more of it's on the open market, and the more that diminishes the actual value. So overall, I think the goal for us is not to, it's still at the end of the day, it's a governance token. The revenues for the foundation aren't based on selling the token. The revenues are based on the fees that we get shared from different exchanges that our partners on. That's why I think the core mandate of the foundation is to try to essentially reach sustainability by driving more volume to these fee share exchanges, which only happens if the code base is actually usable and if the community can actually, can run lots of bots on these top exchanges and actually be able to execute the trading strategies they want to implement in a safe and an easy way. So that's why I think that from this foundation standpoint, we think that there's actually a lot of alignment between making sure that the HBot bounties are being allocated to the right purposes, which is increasing the experience of the developers and traders using the code base. We're less focused on like the HBot token, like how much we're giving out, but more on what the use cases what kind of value and what kind of development we're going to drive by using the token. So that's just a quick explanation of how it works. But I welcome we welcome all kind of like any all feedback on this process. We recognize that it hasn't been super transparent in the past in terms of how this all worked and getting feedback from community. But we're committed to making sure that we actually get feedback this time around, which is why we've been posting lots of information and we haven't created proposals yet because we want to make sure that anyone who wants to give us feedback has a chance to do so before these governance proposals are actually created. So yeah, so I'll pause there. Dede, if you could try to see if there's any more questions, anything in general. There was one question about how people could apply for the grants. So I'll just cover that right now. So we have a snapshot link, snapshot.org. If you search like HBot on there, so we have 3 different snapshots. One for governance proposals, which is just hbot.eth. One for improvements, which is hbot.ip-eth. These are all snapshot extensions. And then finally, we have one for pull request proposals, which is hbot-prp-eth. We think the correct starting point is probably more of a forum thread, propose a dev grant of some kind. We think having discussion around that before you just kind of submit the proposal is a good idea. Otherwise, because people don't check snapshot on it often, so in order to pass quorum and reach quorum for your proposal, I think you probably want to try to get some debate and get some validation from the community. So I would actually recommend creating a forum thread in the improvements category if you want to basically get your proposal implemented and get a dev grant for doing the work.
Okay.
Klibnagi has joined the chat. Klibnagi, thanks for joining. We actually spent some time talking about your proposed your solution earlier.
Well, we discussed the different solutions that we have already, that they are interacting with the bot from the outside. One is your solution. The next step will be to have more details of the different solutions and create probably a thread to discuss that. I would do that. I would do that, Mike, now. I will create a thread with the different solutions, and maybe we can discuss that there. What do you think?
Create a forum thread, link to the bot orchestration Notion page, and then people can kind of add their comments and everything in line. Try to understand more about how Klibnagi's solution might integrate with what Holy Roger has already done. And because I believe Holy Roger spent more time on the TradingView web server and that rather than on the WebSocket part of it. So these 2 solutions may actually be aligned. And in terms of what CoinAlpha has created in terms of the RPC layer, overall, I think that I would say because we don't have enough information about it right now. So I would recommend we kind of focus on the Klibnagi's solution and seeing how it might integrate with the Holy Roger solution for now. And then if we can integrate CoinAlpha's RPC layer into it later on, it might be good, but I don't think it needs to be a priority.
Okay, perfect. So I will create the forum thread today. I will link the Notion page, and then we can move the discussion to this course. So maybe with those comments, we can. The next session, we are going to continue the discussion of this bot orchestration idea based on which are the comments in the thread. Then we are going to review the PRD of the indicators. If you can, please review the Notion page that I already filled, because there are some insight of which kind of indicators we can include. And also I add some resources related to the different kinds of OHLC that we can add to the bot. They are from a book from Marco Lopez de Prado, that is Advances in Financial Machine Learning, and explain the difference between time bars, volume bars, dollar bars, and which is important to distinguish between them, because the distribution of the returns has much more normal distribution when you are looking at volume or dollar instead of time. Please review that, so maybe we can discuss in the next meeting those topics too. And also, if you want to add another topic to discuss, please add it in the community call chat. Which are the things that you want to discuss in the next meeting, so we can start creating the agenda properly. Soothsayers, you say, here's another idea. If a Hummingbot instance can have a communications protocol, it will open things up enough that there can be different ways to control an instance via MQTT, RFC, WebSocket, whatnot. Different developers may have their own projects ways, perhaps. This way, even the CLI input pane can be one of consumer of these comms protocols you see, which automatically adds a default consumer default to the protocol. And users can choose to deploy more than one consumer instead of a trading view connector and say Telegram bot, because at the end of the day, they all send instructions to the same core. Yeah, to say I agree with you, and I think that is one of the main ideas that ELPanai has. It will let communicate different instances between them and different servers, different services like the trading view integration. I think that we can add that easily to the ELPanai solution too. This will open a lot of opportunities, a lot of improvements in the code base in the future, and it will be much more easy to add microservices.
What Fede is saying is the MQTT broker is not necessarily a protocol. It is basically a communications layer, between the core Hummingbot consumer and other and basically some type of like central control plane. So I believe that the solution that Klibnagi implemented does support various communication protocols, whether it's like like WebSocket or RPC or or other protocols for communicating between one instance to another. But this is where I think there's probably the devil is probably in the details here. So moving discussion to the discourse forum, like architectural discussion involving some diagrams and kind of like some flowcharts, so that we can actually be more specific in terms of describing what the best solution might look like.
Okay, nice talk. See you next week.
Yeah, bye everyone.